the charm as well. There's the first blood coming in for CosQ, and Robin is now underneath this turret. Hybrid takes another tap shot. They're very low. This is dangerous. Everyone else has abandoned him. He's sticking down from the Yang. He heals himself somehow, and Morsu is now trading off against Kubon, and also Morgana hitting away at this inhibitor. Now moving in, the minion line has also come in to help him. This is 3 versus 2, and it's nothing they can do. Lowlandlions, with the constant swings in this game, somehow managed to pick up the win against Reason Gaming. They're completely separated between the rock and a hard place, and now Kubon comes to engage onto Ica. Jeebus over the wall as well. He's right in the thick of the fight, and no one can focus him down. Zayu now comes in, gets the land shot, jump onto Jeebus, but everyone's there to defend him. Kubon should be falling here. Everyone's so low. This could even be a 5-4-0 here. There's the Foss bomb. He started the teleport. Great Tibbets comes down onto 3 members. Semifinals comes into the fight. Only lands the ultimate onto Wonderwear, though. Maybe not the ideal target, but Senkox takes a step too far forward, and Ica will lock him down. Game is 2 in a 50-minute slugfest in a composition that should be coming away with the win at this point in the game. Get beaten by a Teemo. History in the making, ladies and gentlemen. History in the making indeed. Hello and welcome to the European Challenger Series Spring Split, and we're back with our first day of the playoffs. I'm Richard Polscam, and I am of course joined by the one, the only, is James Stresso-Daly.
Who is hoping not to have a Teemo today, but yeah. On the serious side, we're out of the round robin. The round robin is done. 10 games for each team are in the books, and that means we are in the playoff bracket to determine the 3 teams which are going to get their spot potentially at getting into the LCS.
Yeah, so let's take a look at the teams that made it through and who's facing who. Today, Lowlandlions White will be facing Gamers 2 in a best of 3. Tomorrow, Origin go against Reason Gaming in another best of 3. And then the losers from those games go to a 3rd place game next Tuesday, while the winners go to the live grand final next Wednesday, where the victors will be automatically promoted to the LCS.
Sounds a lot more complicated than it is, but there it is in front of you. Now, one thing you may notice it's a little bit different is this week Reason Gaming have joined the playoff lineup, and that is because there was a competitive ruling earlier this week against Team Dignitas EU. Team Dignitas EU decided not to participate in the playoffs, and as such, they relinquished their playoff spot and forfeit all playoff prize money.
So if you want to get full context on the decision, you can do so. Head over to LLL to read the full competitive ruling on Team Dignitas EU during one of our breaks.
And while you're there, you can also book your tickets to the European Challenger Series Finals. They're going to be broadcast from our studios here in Berlin. All you need to do, click the tickets tab and follow the links to secure your ticket.
Now on to today's match between Lowlandlions White and Gamers 2. With everyone saying how Gamers 2 would be 2nd place out of the round robin, who would have guessed that the team to take it from them would be Lowlandlions? But that's exactly what happened. Now the winner of this best of 3 will progress to the live grand finals next week.
Indeed, and you know that whoever is reaching that grand finals is still up in the air, but one thing that certainly isn't to be questioned is that Lowlandlions are looking a lot sharper now, especially with that win versus Origin, the only team to take a game from Origin at all. Over on the other side, their opponents Gamers 2 struggled a little bit last week. They played Mouse, who going into the week didn't even have a win, but Mouse played some unorthodox compositions, had a little bit of good fortune go in their favor, and Gamers 2 struggled their way to an 0-2. And Gamers 2, it was half Mouse, half Gamers 2's late game decision making. Hopefully they'll be a lot more comfortable coming into this week, because this should be Gamers 2 at full strength.
Hopefully. I mean, I spoke to them and they were like, yeah, we just didn't like the way we played it. So hopefully as they come back into this week, they'll just be much better and back on form. So before we get into the game, let's hit up the lineups. In the blue hand side, it is Lowlandlions White with Morsu, Kairi, CosQ, Visility, and Hybrid as the support.
And over on the red side, it is the Gamers 2 lineup, starting with Smitty J in the top lane, Gilius in the jungle, Ica in the mid lane, with Jeebus and Hiva in the bottom lane.
Yeah, and I really want to talk top laners here, because in this matchup, I feel they are critical to each team's success. Both Smitty J and Morsu have huge impacts on their teams, but go about it in very different ways. On one side, Smitty has a wide meta champion pool with 7 unique picks in the 10 games that they played during the round robin. However, on Morsu's side, he'll do that split push and he'll get ahead in lane, but only if it's on his terms, with only 4 meta picks and the other 2 being Fiora and Wukong.
Morsu has an interesting and different play style when you look at it, especially compared to Smitty J. And Morsu as a player has both the positives and the negatives. The positives is you kind of have to ban him a lot, or at least positives for Morsu. That's a negative for Lowlandlions, for Gamers 2 here.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
You know, last time Gamers 2 and Lowlandlions met each other, 6 bans from Gamers 2 were aimed right at Morsu in that top lane. It's not the same problem for Smitty J. He's got a lot more that he can choose from. Morsu on the other side, his personal positives and for the team is that he can actually keep Lowlandlions in games a lot better than a lot of other top laners can. He's always split pushing in. Think back to last week's game versus Origin Game 2 that we broadcast on Wednesday. Morsu very nearly potentially took the game away from Origin. He took 2 inhibs, exposed a 3rd, and the split push is very difficult to deal with.
Yeah, so the bottom line is that Smitty J is a more consistent top laner, while Morsu is kind of more of a loose cannon, but can definitely upset him and still land up on top. And Morsu himself is very vocal about how the champion select will maybe be going. He said, you either pick Malphite or you triple ban me, otherwise you'll have a bad time.
Yeah, triple ban or enjoy.
Yeah,
at this point, but
which they did last week or last time they played them because they put them on champions that they won against. So we'll see if that's the case as we get into this champion select. But yeah, very very interested to see how this one goes because as you mentioned, it was 6 bans aimed towards him, kind of 5.5 because the last one was Lissandra, so kind of that flex pick, but still 5.5 is a lot of bans, and
it is.
We'll see if that's the case as Lowlandlions have the first ban.
So just to bring everybody up to speed, we're on 5.6, so we're on the patch that is currently on the live client as well, so a lot of changes that we'll get into as we go through the day.
Yeah, 5.6, but Bard is disabled,
yes.
So that's a key thing to keep track of. Rumble will be banned up against Smitty J. He played that multiple times, 3 times I think during split, and what he played against them last time. LeBlanc comes out, and then Malphite.
The Malphite ban, though. You just said that Morsu's own words were triple ban me or play Malphite. And now you can't even play Malphite. And it's not going to be a triple ban. So Morsu is going to get something here that he wants. And there's a lot of fast bans.
Okay, so it's not a triple ban, but it's still his Irelia. It's still his Jax. And they haven't banned away his Fizz, which is what they did last time. It's going to be a fast first pick of Nidalee for the first pick of Lowlandlions.
Yeah, Nidalee's still one of the queens of the jungle, still very high priority. Actually saw it less so much in the EULCS than we have in Challenger. Challenger still very much so playing the Nidalee. Maybe we'll see it creep back in this week's EULCS as well once we get on to 5.6. Of course, there were nerfs to Sejuani and a couple of other little tweaks around the jungle as well. But with that Nidalee locked in, Lowlandlions, this was the champion that helped them beat Origin last week on Kyrie.
It is, and Gamers 2 respond very quickly with their Corki coming out for the AD carry, so still keeping their top lanes to the chest right now, but they also pick up the Ahri for the mid lane. Full Ica coming in here, so they don't give too much away at this point in time.
Especially with LeBlanc banned away, it's another strong mid lane champion, and mid lane had a lot of changes as well here in 5.6. There were the changes to Athene's. Question possibly of is Ziggs coming back. I'm still hesitant to say yes to that because I haven't really seen too much since the changes. But lots happened to the mid lane. Corki's still as prevalent as ever down in that bottom lane. And there's still a lot open here for the top lane, as you said. I mean, you said the Fizz is open. We've still got the possibility of a Hecarim, which we saw out of Fnatic and Huni in Europe and pretty much every team as well. There's so much still there.
Yeah, there's a lot to pick from in the top lane. The question is, what do these top laners play? Because we know Irelia Jax is, of course, in Morsu's champion pool, but we'll see what he brings to the table. Probably going to wait for Gamers to make their first move, but Lowlandlions do lock in their AD carry as well, along with the Fresh, so they have their bot lane secured, plus potentially their jungle in Nidalee.
Yeah, and speaking of jungle, Sejuani has been locked in. So Sejuani had the slow reduction on her ultimate for if you whiff the ult, and I believe it was a little bit of damage taken off her W from the flail. So we'll have to see exactly how much that has affected Sejuani. Some junglers have been very vocal that it's been a heavy hit to Sejuani's early clear. So we have to see. Gilius, is he going to be still as confident on Sejuani? You have to feel like that because it was picked. Rek'Sai was available at the same time.
Yeah, so we do have the flex of Morgana coming in here. Could be top, could be support, depending on where Gamers 2 put it.
This would be interesting if he locks it in. But yes, they're also hovering over the Cassiopeia. CosQ, well, we know he plays it. This could be something that goes into the mid lane. There's still plenty of things for him to play. There's like Syndra, even if he wants to go down that route, even the Xerath, and maybe the Ziggs with now the Ludens coming in with the buff to the Athenes. Not too sure, but now with the hover over Fizz, it's going to be Fizz. We said they didn't ban it out, and that's the only one that he's not going to have that taken away from.
And this is a super high damage composition when you look at things. Cassiopeia, Fizz are both going to become monsters in this game if you don't shut them down. The same with Graves, he's got a lot of burst damage. Nidalee's going to have that little bit of a dip, but we saw that Kyrie was not affected by the dip by getting 7 kills by about the 10-minute mark against Origin. So still, Lowlandlions are going to have so much damage.
Yeah, I would like to remind you that this is the composition, as you mentioned. Nidalee came out. Now they also have the Fresh for Hybrid. This is the composition they ran against Origin, where they just got snowballing. It's 5 kills plus the million kills on Kyrie. And if they can replicate that against Gamers 2, this is a great start to this best of 3 if they can pull it off. But Gamers 2 themselves, what are they looking towards?
Likely top lane here, unless they're going to flex Morgana up
Okay,
there. But
Hecarim.
Okay, Hecarim's gone all the way through the draft. We've seen him higher priority by certain teams, but Smitty J, this is, I believe, I'm trying to remember if we've seen him actually play Hecarim before. I will have to go back and check through that. But at this point, this could be another unique pick here out of Smitty J, and certainly a meta pick as well. We've seen a lot of Hecarim coming through the meta. Can be fairly good against, or is fairly good against melee matchups. So we'll have to see exactly how Morsu can fare in the Fizz Hecarim matchup.
Yeah, Hecarim to me just is like a Smitty J champion all over, right? Like he likes to go for the split pushes. The only thing I'm a little concerned about is how he deals with the teleports. And that's basically it. Because we saw Zazas play him twice last week, or the week before last week, rather, and it just failed every single time. He was actually playing into a Fresh like he is now, and he's got flayed away every single time he teleported in. But as the teams load onto the Rift, get your votes in for who you think will take the win by logging onto Twitter and using the hashtags LLLwin and G2win. And we'll be checking in with your opinion later in the match.
We will, and this is the first time we've seen Smitty J on Hecarim here in the European Challenger Series as well. On the other side of the map, this is actually going to be the 3rd time for Fizz for Morsu. So we'll see how it goes.
We will indeed, as we get into game and onto the Rift. Lowlandlions versus Gamers 2. This is the first game in our best of 3 here, ladies and gentlemen, our very first semi-finals in the playoffs. And the winner of this will go to the live grand finals next week, which will be hijacking the LCS studio. And the teams will be there live. So very interested to see who comes out on top here, Stress.
We're taking it. It's ours. I scouted it out last week.
Oh, yeah?
I got all
Found
the security. Found the weaknesses. We're taking it over. Just don't tell them, okay? Nobody tell them we're coming.
Well, hopefully they have the Metal Gear guards where we can just sneak past and it's just like, oh, they're streaming from our studio. Let's see what Gamers 2 are doing in the top side of the map, though. They're all congregated around there. Will they just set up this depth push facility? Oh, he catches them, but he gets catched himself. That's not a word, but he is going to go back to his turret. He does get tagged by the binding, but the rest of the team may be heading into the jungle now. Of course, they know that they've been spotted, and Lowlandlions have responded by going into the opposing jungle themselves, but they're 4v5 if they head into a confrontation.
That could have gone a lot worse for Visility there. That really could have been a big play to begin. Now, Visility, yes, they've seen that go down, so Visility is... should know that's happening, and the rest of Lowlandlions are around the back now. Gamers 2 are a little bit boxed in, but there's no way Visility can actually get to the rest of his team without crossing the ward line here for Lowlandlions. And Gamers 2 are going to back away. They've both got deep vision into each other's jungle. However, there isn't actually vision to spot the lane swap as such from Lowlandlions, and that may become problematic depending on exactly where G2 show themselves. Yeah, so Jeebus and Heaver have gone back to base and they will be heading into the bottom lane here, so they should get the dual lanes coming out. They did see Visility actually pass through that base gate ward, so they know he's heading into the bot side of the map. And now they definitely know he's here, and he's actually setting up the lane just in case it's the 2v1. So the problem about this, yes, he's going to set up the lane, but as it's, actually Hybrid scrap the bottom lane because Ica, this is a very different type.
There's the auto. CosQ follows up with some damage. There's the ignite as well from Hybrid, so he burns out in the mid lane just to send Ica packing, and he will have to go back to base. He doesn't even bother spending the biscuits, and yeah, he's going to be out of commission for a couple seconds.
But now that that Hybrid has realized that it's actually a 1 versus 2 right now in the bottom lane, Visility hasn't been able to push up and get any real farm done here. He's only on the 1 CS to 4. Now they're back to the 2v2. Should be okay, but that was a little touch and go there for Hybrid. Rome thinking it would have been a 1v1 in that bottom lane.
Yeah, it's only put Visility a couple CS behind, but it's not going to feel the long-term impact.
And we have to now wonder what the impact of this top lane is going to be now with SmittyJ and Morsu going head-to-head. We didn't see SmittyJ start with that flask on its own and then do a camp and teleport back. So this will be a straight-up matchup here in the top lane. And SmittyJ actually just took a turret shot. That is probably something he's going to not want to do for the rest of this laning phase if he wants to go up against Morsu. Because if there is one thing that Morsu can do very well, it is these 1v1 situations in the top lane.
Yeah, he's going to have to get itemized first, but yeah, once he gets there, he's very difficult to deal with because there's almost no real way of dealing with him because he'll just keep jumping around with a Z, and he won't be building Zhonya's. He'll be going for the AD Fizz build, most likely, with the Triforce and the Blade of the Ruin King, which is what we've been seeing Fizz do as of late. We'll see if he'll be doing that. But SmittyJ should be able to play around this. He's played it himself. Hybrid comes out with the Flay in the bot lane. There's the auto. There's the follow-up from Visility. That's all they want for now. Hybrid is still spotted out by that ward, and Kyrie looking maybe to go from the backside and see if he can close in with his pincer movement.
I've seen this kind of setup before, and this was pretty much what happened against Origin at about this time into the game. Kyrie, one spear, it landed. No follow-up from the hook from Hybrid, though.
Literally inches away from Heaver. Even so, not quite the target they were looking for, as Jeebus was there, one under their crosshairs.
But at this point, Kyrie's put enough pressure on this bottom side of the map. You can see the pressure on the middle lane as well that Kyrie's having. Just throws a spear in, but it's all from that roam from Hybrid, putting CosQ ahead early on. Just because they didn't really get anything from Ica, it did pass over the lane presence to this Cassiopeia, though. They chunked Dari so hard, but bottom lane, they're chunking Heaver.
Yeah, Hybrid just never fails to land hooks. You saw it against Miffy as well. He just could not escape them. Hybrid is continuing to put down the pressure, and it means they are slightly ahead in this lane, but nothing to write home about just yet. And Gilius, just out of range, I think, of that ward to see that they were there. And Gilius will be heading through the rest of his jungle. As you mentioned, his early clear maybe not as good as it was, but he has gone for the Trailblazer, so he should be able to get through his jungle just fine now.
Yeah, that'll help him out. Just keep clearing through. On the other hand, Kyrie hasn't yet opted for anything. If you think back, Kyrie has been one of the players that has opted for, I believe it's the tier build on Nidalee. We saw him rush that very, very early on. Oh, another hook lands in that bottom lane, and yes, they can't follow up, but every single time, G2 are getting pressured out. And this was the bottom lane that Visility was on his own in as they began this game, so they really didn't pressure out Graves at all in the early game. Yeah,
this is also the Heaver who is continuing to not quite land his Black Shields. I don't think I've seen a single Black Shield that's gone in before the hook, and every single time Jeebus has been dragged in regardless, so needs to be a little sharper on those as the hooks keep landing. Mid lane, as you mentioned, significant advantage now to CosQ, 45 CS to 24 from CosQ in here. Neither have gone back just yet. Neither have really spent any of their potions either, so they're just mostly farming it out, and CosQ's getting the better of Ica.
Ica was quite vocal yesterday on Twitter. There was a series of interactions between some of the players and also with regards to the Challenger chat show that was posted yesterday as well. Ica taking a little bit to heart some of the people's comments about Gamers2 and his strength on the team. So he's really been looking to kind of raise his status within the team, but he's not quite getting there with the CS difference quite yet. Kyrie actually just walks straight into the lane. SmittyJ, a little bit trapped here, no flash.
Yeah, nice juke from Morsu though. There's to chum the waters. Kyrie's taking a bunch of damage. There's the first blood in the 1v2. It won't be the second kill for Smitty as Morsu does wipe him up, but still, they do get that one kill and the assist, so slight advantage to Lowlandlions, even though that was not quite how they wanted it to turn out.
Man, you can't underestimate the damage that's going to come from this Hecarim, though. You can see he basically just turns what should have been fairly easy 2v1 into a 1-for-1 trade overall. We'll see what he opts for now, as he does have a little bit of gold. Yes, has opted for those home guard level 3 boots here. Will he use his teleport is the question, because he may very well require that. Now that he's got home guard, can just run out.
And he's almost back in lane literally just a couple seconds ago. Home guard so good on FLICKR, allows him to go for those ganks and return to lane very quickly, so doesn't even have to expend that vital summoner or teleport.
It also gives him quite a big burst of damage on that initial hit as well.
It does. Comes in with the sonic boom, just with the E, so much damage as that translates with his passive.
Something as well, Smitty J is not a fan of Robot Unicorn attack.
He's not, no.
He's
I'm a
opted,
little bit
however,
disappointed.
for the Headless Horseman instead.
It's a solid play. Let's see if it pans out. Morsu is continuing with his CS, and he's pretty much equal with Hecarim. So the Hecarim pick against those melee top laners has not quite put down the pressure that he may have wanted. We just have a large minion wave heading towards him. Gilius is going to be utilizing that minion wave to see if he can get in for a gank here. Morsu is very slippery with his E and his flash. See if he can get the kill off, as Smitty does not have his ult, but Gilius does, and his flash as well. Morsu is now feeling the attack. Gilius, well, he uses ultimate. There's the Arctic Assault. He burns the flash. Good gank.
Gets the flash, yeah, didn't even have to use his ultimate there, and we talked a little bit in Champion Select about the Sejuani changes. If you don't hit it, it's from a 90% slow down to about a 30% slow, and that is a massive difference if you don't hit that ult. But the Lantern in the bottom lane, and a long trip, but Kyrie's
there's
in
the
trouble.
flash on the Arctic Assault. Ica from the mid lane as well with the Foxfires takes down Kyrie as he's trying to prowl through the jungle. Smitty J in the top lane receives the Chum the Waters. There's a damage amp from Morsu as well. The auto attacks having to use Smitty J's ultimate to get away from that. So Morsu takes control of the lane, but he's very low.
He is very low, but you can see just how much damage Morsu can do in these situations. As we said, 1 versus 1. Smitty J a little bit feeling the pressure in the trades, but still ahead in CS. Keep in mind, until Morsu really gets his flash up, though, he can't really risk going aggressive on Smitty when his ult is up. But now that Smitty's ult is down, Morsu may be able to just burst him.
Gilius is here 1v1. Can he do the damage in time? Yes, he can. Urchin strike with a Seastone Trident. Gilius gets a little bit juked there by Morsu. There's the Arctic Assault. Needs to get in range for the Frost passive and get the Permafrost down, but he can't quite connect the auto attack. Morsu is going to be juking with the Urchin strike. He has E in 4 seconds. He just needs to buy time. He's got the ward coming down, but Ica's come in from the mid lane. Cosq in hot pursuit, though. Morsu's got the minion dash, but he has the passive to try and reduce some of that. He's got the Urchin strike down. Cosq was on the hunt, but he was not in range to get taken out by Ica, and that's Lowlandlions taking the dragon as well.
Great individual play out of Morsu. Knew exactly the pathing he had to take to kind of juke Gilius out there, and if nothing else, wasted the time from the rest of gamers too, so they can take a dragon. Lowlandlions now ahead, both in gold and in the dragons. That was a really good play.
Yeah, you can just see that Ica all the way through that was like, I wish I had bought boots, because that would have been enough to catch up. He, in fact, opted towards the Ruby Crystal instead for the extra tanky stats. Either way, that is Morsu getting away scot-free. He is still heading towards his Trinity Force. He's now picked up the Phage on top of his Sheen. And now Kyrie, with a nice rotation into the bot lane, will be able to secure the first tower of the game for Lowlandlions.
And Lowlandlions, one of the things that they actually do really well is their coordination between their players. When it comes to playing a split push game, when it comes to playing an objective game, they're actually one of the best teams that we have here in European Challenger, and that really just shows in its stats. They have the most dragons and barons out of all teams in the European Challenger Series. So that's the first objective like that in the books with the dragon and the tower. Very
impressive stat there, but Morsu, that's not your lane. He's now in mid lane, and they've performed the swap up. Cosq now in the top lane, but he'll be heading into the river maybe for the crab, it looks like. Ica is still following through with the damage, but he's still behind his mid laner. Eva takes a javelin to the face. Morsu does not choose to follow up, as Ica is also there. Second spear almost landing. And Gilius is also around that area, maybe looking to set up for a potential something. There's no dragon there,
well,
so.
This is an interesting little swap here from Cosq and Morsu. When you look at it, Morsu was actually doing well in the trades, but was losing out in CS in the middle lane, whereas it's the opposite for the middle lane, where Cosq is way ahead in CS, but there's a lot of people in mid lane, so Cosq just kind of wants to farm his way up, get his tier stacked, get later into the game to get the damage, but it's kind of just releasing a fair amount of the pressure here that is on Ica, and I wonder whether that could potentially come back to be a little bit of a misplay out of Lowlandlions. They need to maybe force things in this top lane fairly soon, but it's bottom lane Binding has landed for Gamers 2. That's going to spell the end of any kind of engages here from Lowlandlions.
So it's past 10 minutes now, but it's still worth mentioning that Lowlandlions are always behind in their CS, or on average they are behind in CS at 10 minutes, whereas Gamers 2 are always ahead. That is not the case this game, as CosQ is ahead in his mid lane.
Ult's available.
Smitty J in top
Oh,
lane.
nice juke over the back of the Snake, but he's still chasing him down. Maybe for the kill. Onslaught of Shadows. He'll flash away. He'll burn the Summoner. Kyrie comes out with a takedown pounce and gets the kill. That was a little too close for comfort, as CosQ has to burn both of his Summoners.
Yeah, CosQ really shouldn't have even had to use either of his Summoners in that kind of situation. So, little bit of a misplay by CosQ, but Smitty J keeping themselves in it. However, it's bottom lane. Gilius is just going to show himself straight away. Ultimate is available. Minion wave pushing in.
Nice ult, lands right onto Facility.
Oh, the Lantern with the flash as well. There comes the Flay just in case he followed up. Hybrid, what a play.
Great Lantern out there, and Gilius used his ult early on that engage. Hook has landed onto Gilius. There's no real follow-up damage, but this is just to stop them from putting any damage down onto this turret. But a new wave will refresh the minions, and this turret doesn't look like it's going to be sticking around for too much longer.
Yeah, as the binding doesn't land onto Facility, trying to clear out these minions. They have indeed done so, so pretty much wasted a lot of Gilius' time down there. Very nicely played by the bot lane duo of Lowlandlions. Let's take a look at some of the items though. 13 minutes into this game, Morsu has completed his Triforce as his first item. And on the opposing side, Smitty J also apparently looking towards his Triforce with the Phage and the Amp Tome towards the Sheen. Has of course gotten those home guards as we mentioned earlier. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, CosQ, you can see him taking blue buff, but he's got the Archangel staff, so he's gone for the tier and actually didn't go tier into Ludens, he just went straight for the Archangels.
Yes, he has gone straight for that Archangels, because he needs to ramp it up as fast as he can. He's only at about 300 stacks so far, which, you know, with that Archangels complete, it's going to stack faster, so it should be just about on time, but it's the massive CS difference that CosQ is really concerned about right now, and he is way ahead of Ica from that middle lane. He's prevented Ica from really roaming at all, and every time that Ica has tried, it's been CosQ there behind him. However, why roam when you might be able to catch somebody coming straight past your lane?
He whiffs the binds as he's walking in a straight line, but it doesn't seem to matter because Ica still follows up with his full combo. Will burn the Ignite as well. That should have been a little smoother from Ica there, but they burn both of the... in fact, they burn two Summoners in the form of Flash and then the Ignite from Ica.
And both teams may be looking a little bit unsettled to begin this one. A couple of plays that really should be a lot cleaner are very messy right now, with bindings missing. You know, the top lane ult as well. So it is first game of a best-of-3 series. We'll see if any of the teams really start to find their groove a little bit better. But now two pushing in this middle lane. Hybrid is there, and he's got Facility as well. So it's going to be able to clear the wave out as well. Gilius shows himself. Hooks on the minion.
Yeah, it would have been onto Gilius had that minion just happened not to be there. Morsu and Kyrie in the top lane, still pushing away, so they get their second turret and defend the middle turret as well. So Lowlandlions really commanding on the objective game so far. Jeebus should be able to get the first tower of the game for Gamers 2 in the bot lane. There we go. But when you're a team and you start making mistakes against Lowlandlions, they will capitalize. We've seen that multiple times where people make one small mistake and Lowlandlions, they always capitalize on it.
And this is a split push game as well. Kyrie's getting forced back, but Morsu's free to just sit under this turret for a little bit longer. Smitty J.
That's a big crit as well. There comes the E, flattens him down. Goodbye, Hecarim. Gilius now comes into the top lane. He's 1-on-2. There's the ultimate onto Kyrie, and Morsu just kind of leaves him out to dry.
He's getting the
as
turret.
Kyrie tries to get away here. Morsu just finishes off the turret. He'll easily take that kill for a turret any day of the week. And Lowlandlions continue to pull ahead.
Really well balanced there by Lowlandlions. They knew that they had the damage to kill Smitty J, and knew that Gilius had to pick one target. They get a turret from it. This split push game is really difficult to deal with, how coordinated the Lowlandlions are, and Morsu is already pretty huge. 3-0-0 in this game so far.
Well, we were definitely interested in how the top laners would interact because they are the focal points of the teams. But so far, it seems like Morsu is pulling ahead 1-4 on Smitty J, and Gamers 2 go for a very nice dragon.
Yeah, it's very important for them to take this dragon now because Jeebus has to back to get his Trinity Force. That's what the bottom lane turret gave him the gold for. So they had to get the dragon and then recall rather than, you know, wait for the dragon because they wouldn't have had the power spike to fight a full team fight against Lowlandlions. And Kyrie just died in the top lane. So good timing out of Gamers 2, knowing what they had to do. But now that they've got it back, Lowlandlions, again, they're all together as a unit, looking to push down turrets. Morsu has a fair amount of damage. Now, look at how fast that tower is dying at only 17 minutes into the game.
Yeah, counterplay on counterplay. Hiva does get hooked in. There's the black shield, but he just gets destroyed by Morsu.
I thought...
Oh, that damage from Urchin Strike.
I legitimately thought he'd flashed to the side, and he was just off the screen. I legitimately was like, well, there was no animation on that flash. No, he just got destroyed. Straight up 100-0.
Yeah, the Sheen, the Season Trident from W, and then the Urchin Strike.
Crazy.
Literally 60% of
And now
Hiva's
bot
health.
lane. This is just so good out of Lowlandlions with how they're pushing. G2 just cannot settle themselves against this amount of pressure across the map. They let Morsu have a champion that he is very comfortable on. This is his 3rd game here in Challenger Series on the Fizz, and it's been banned in most of the other ones. It's very strange that G2 would let Morsu get the champion like this.
Yeah, you really have to question whether that LeBlanc ban was worth it from Gamers 2 against CosQ, because the only ban that they let through was the Fizz, which they banned out last time they played them.
Also, LeBlanc isn't quite as tough to play against as she used to be. Still very strong. She did have slight changes, slight
on her
AP ratios on her mimicked abilities. So it's not taking her out of the top tier, it just makes her that little bit less deadly.
Yeah, for context, it's 0.005 of all her ratios. So it's a little bit, but it's definitely a little bit all the same. And an opponent of LeBlanc will take everything they can get from being detonated. But Hiva, now back from the graveyard, is looking to ward up. I haven't really been paying too much attention to the Vision game because it's all been about the kills and objectives so far, but now the teams are starting to ward up as they can.
And it's interesting that you bring up the Vision game, actually, in this
really?
matchup. Because Lowlandlions have statistically the worst warding in the European Challenger Series. They only place a ward just over every 2 minutes on average. And then you look at G2, they are tied 2nd for the worst warding as well. They're actually tied with Mouse, who, as most people know, didn't have a win for 4 weeks. So both of these teams, if you look at one area that they could really look to improve on, warding would certainly be it. But when you're ahead right now, as Lowlandlions are right now, they're not all that focused on their warding game. They're focused on let's get towers, let's get objectives, and stay ahead. Because if we're stood right in front of their turrets taking them,
it doesn't matter if
we
you can
know exactly
see me.
what they are. Yeah, exactly. But still, there's some interesting stats in this matchup.
Yeah, for sure. But now we've kind of hit more of a lull period. The teams are looking toward, but it's definitely like they can't seem to multitask in that sense. It's like, we'll push up your towers, but we won't also keep up our Vision game by doing so. Now, Hiva over the wall. He does have Flash if he can go for that Flash Soul Shackle engage. But Morsu is pretty much by himself right now with Hybrid and Kyrie coming up the rear.
And one thing that I think actually may lead to the warding is look at how empty jungle, mid, and AD carry are of wards for both teams right now. Mainly sweepers, a blue trinket, but no purchased wards, no consumables in their inventory. Now, that either tells you that their back timing has just been perfect from all 3 players and they didn't have any money at all, hit it on 0 and quit it. Or they just didn't pick any up. So that's one of the interesting things I want to keep a track of, at least mentally to myself, for the rest of this matchup.
But I have to get my next damage spike. I can't
Exactly,
put it on wards.
That's 75 gold.
He'll put me behind, but wow, that's an interesting fan vote coming in here. 76% over to Gamers 2. And that would be the quote-unquote safe bet, because an on-form Gamers 2, yes, is very good, and have proven so during the previous weeks, but we've also seen how good Lowlandlions are at upsetting teams and capitalizing on mistakes like they are in this game, even though we've kind of hit more of a slow point, which I feel is going to ramp up in the next couple of seconds.
Yeah, it certainly is going to ramp up as Lowlandlions push up. Although a missed hook. Oh, Gideus flashes in.
He comes in. There's the ultimate coming across. Hiva does land his binding, but a great ultimate by CosQ lands onto 2. There's collateral damage. Morsu follows up as well. Smitty J only now uses ultimate onto the back line and will take down the counterpart of Morsu, but that's 4 of the players from Gamers 2 down for the count. Spear comes across, does not quite land onto onto Ica, but it's 1 versus 4 here, and a minion wave is flooding in.
Great ultimate out of CosQ to hold that fight, and Lowlandlions are going to get turrets from it as well, but you could see how much engaged Smitty J had and Gilius. They locked down a good two or three people with each engage, but they just didn't have the damage to follow it after they'd used everything on Morsu. Morsu burned down early in that fight, leads them now to be in the position to take a Baron.
Ica does not have his ultimate, he has Flash and doesn't have Ignite. We'll see how this one goes. Everyone is very low from Lowlandlions. If he did have ultimate, this would be a quadra, but can he do anything more? There's the teleport coming in from Morsu, and that's enough to dissuade Ica from trying anything. Just tries to go for the steal, but Kyrie was able to take that down with his smite. Let's see the last fight once again.
Yeah, we will. Here's the engage out of Gilius. You see it locks down 2 people, but it's Hybrid and Kyrie that, you know, they're not dealing the most amount of damage right now. Morsu exhausted almost instantly, and then gets shredded down. Ica burns everything to try and get him, and really not everything hit there either. And CosQ flashes, picks up his kill. Smitty J will be next to fall as well, but you can see just how much was burned trying to get Morsu down. And really, just that was the end of that team fight as soon as he fell.
Well, following the Baron, it is now time for Dragon, and this will be their second Dragon of the game for Lowlandlions coming in here. That will be easily going over them. There's nothing Gilius can do about it. And we haven't really seen a fight where Gamers 2 have initiated with a Hecarim and using what Hecarim is there for. It's only been Lowlandlions initiating onto Gamers 2, so I'd be interested in seeing a team fight where that was the scenario, but they need to not fall too far behind before that happens. Smitty J will get himself a top turret here, but is the rest of his team kind of out in the open because he doesn't have his teleport to get involved?
In theory, though, Gamers 2 should have been at that power spike a little while ago off that Trinity Force from both their top and AD carry players, and they really didn't utilize it very well. They didn't reach that point and say, okay, now we have to fight, because there was really nothing to fight over. Lowlandlions had already pushed that mid outer, Dragon wasn't available, and then they take a team fight in which they use everything and get not a lot from it. And Lowlandlions will be happy with that because they've just hit another big power spike as well. You look at it, now we've got a needlessly large rod and 2 items onto the Cassiopeia. Static Shiv has been completed onto Graves for that extra attack speed as well. And a Blade of the Ruined King onto Fizz is a lot of items here that gives Lowlandlions a lot of power and gives that man, Morsu, all the potential to split push here.
Well, here's the 4-1, and Lowlandlions, they just need to take it slow in the bot lane, but 4v4, it is not a Gamers 2 who like their chances, so Lowlandlions take away the last inner turret here, and Morsu will be just harassing down Smitty J. That's a nice bit of return damage, but it's Morsu with the lifesteal.
One thing that Smitty J will have for Gamers 2 is teleport advantage in about 30 seconds to a minute. They'll have a good minute window where they'll have teleport available and Morsu won't, but the problem is, if you teleport out of that lane, Fizz will take your tower and potentially kill you while your teleport is channeling if his ultimate is up. You can also stop it as well. So it's all on Smitty J to be smart with his teleport if he does choose to use it in that small window.
He really has to make it count, that's for sure. Yeah. Because Morsu, regardless of the scenario, regardless of the outcome, will take away your base. Smitty J heading back into the top lane here. Of course, the perfect scenario would be for him to be in base so he gets the home guard as well, but can't really afford that luxury when Morsu's banging on the front door in the top lane. CosQ are going to be securing these crabs. And you were talking about the items of item builds before, but CosQ has opted towards the Rylai's Crystal Scepter over what we've been seeing typically, and has now gone for a needlessly large rod. So perhaps looking for a death cap. Of course, that was one of the changes in 5.6, where now death cap and her passive stack additively rather than multiplicatively. So he actually loses around 12% damage when you get to the late game.
That's difficult to say. Multiplicatively.
Yes.
I can't say that. I wouldn't have even tried if I hadn't tried that.
I went all in.
hey, you got it. It also changes a long time ago as well to the Rylai's Crystal Scepter that it meant it now applies on Twin Fang, I believe it was, or the Q it was, I believe. The long change ago.
Blast.
Yes, exactly. But changes that have allowed Cassiopeia to bring that. Interestingly, as you mentioned earlier, I wonder whether this is going to be a Luden's Echo or whether it will be the Rabadons, because that's the other option that we've seen a couple of players. It is the Rabadons completed, so not opting looking for that heavy wave clear build with the Luden's Echo that we saw a couple of times in the EULCS. So differences here between challenger players' mentality and of course with the patch changes on 5.6.
Yeah. Also with the Rylai's, like once you start twin fanging someone, they're never going to get away.
Yeah.
Because it's single target slow versus the AoE, which is even more in Rylai's, so they're pretty dead. Gilius as well, he'll be melted by that build. I'm taking a look at Visility for an interesting pickup. He's gone for his two damage items first, and he's now gone straight into a Quicksilver Sash.
Yeah, that's a fairly early Quicksilver Sash when you
Yeah.
look at things. That's the kind of timing you'd expect to see a Quicksilver Sash against a Zed. No Zed in this game. This is purely to QSS off a lot of the crowd control that Gamers 2 have, because he knows he doesn't need a Last Whisper right this second. And it's just important for him to stay alive in these fights. So very smart itemization. Hook is landed on Hiva into the shield.
Well, see if it helps him this time around. He's going to wait for the stun to go down. Oh, he can
Wow.
just kill Morgana instead. Gilius now comes in with his big ultimate onto 2. Ika's now turned up in the fight. Hybrid should be falling. He finally goes down, and Smitty takes him out with the Rampage and the E, but Kyra is there to take him out. There's the ultimate finally, but a triple kill for Visility. That was definitely a value pickup, and he didn't even need to use it. Morsu now onto Ika, lands the ultimate as well. There is the 5-for-1 ace from Lowlandlions, all in a blink of an eye. They just turn it on Gamers 2, and this looks like it might be the game.
It is going to be the game at this point. Still a good 20 seconds on most people. Lowlandlions, we said their comp had damage, but they just destroyed Gamers 2.
Wow, Lowlandlions in this first semi-finals in the playoffs go 1-0 in this best of 3 against Gamers 2. Gamers 2 are not looking good for the rest of the series, Stress.
Wow. I mean, Gamers 2 weren't expecting that damage. I wasn't expecting that damage. The only people that were expecting that team fight to go quite that heavily in their favor was Lowlandlions.
Yeah.
Morsu teleports in, completely just blows everybody up. And, you know, that on the side of Visility, he's had a fairly quiet round robin. That team fight shows up huge as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of quiet for like 5 minutes where it's just like, okay, let's just clear out the waves, let's stay in our base, and oh, we're dead, and oh, the game's done.
Yeah, the game was
yeah,
that's it.
Very impressive from Lowlandlions.
That all came from Hiva and Jeebus trying to catch out Lowlandlions in their own jungle. You have to think, did the warding play a factor into that? Did they know there were that many people there?
Yeah.
I mean, that happened so fast. I'm trying to kind of like keep it in my mind's eye on exactly how the game state was at that point. I know that Morsu was pushing in the bottom lane. Both top laners teleport in, and one does
it just all happened so fast. I think is pretty much the bottom line of that one, Stress. Yeah, very well played. But that's the first game, and that means that Lowlandlions is 1 game away from going into the playoff finals. And once you're into the finals, even if you lose, you still have a chance at promoting into the LCS by taking on one of the LCS teams. Or if you win, which will be a very tall task depending on who qualifies from tomorrow, you will just automatically promote into the LCS. You're in the LCS.
Yeah,
it's a short road.
It's as simple as that. It is a short road. It's you know, it's the shortest road there really has been outside of the expansion tournament. When you look at it, as soon as you're in Challenger, it is such a good spot to climb your way up to the LCS. But you know, it's not there yet.
Yeah, they can see it in the horizon.
Let's not run before that we can walk, because Gamers 2 are a team that should be competing more than what we just saw. Especially now they've brought on Soldra, who I believe was the Gravity analyst, who left the team a couple of weeks back. They brought him in, or they brought Soldra in, and what can they do? What can they do now with an analyst? What can they do between games 1 and 2? You have to think it's ban for his.
Yeah. I think that might be a triple ban coming out. Yeah, because that was literally the only champion that they didn't ban out from the top lane, and they just tried to edge a LeBlanc ban in there, but even so, it didn't go down well. And if they were looking for instant results with their with Soldra, apparently it hasn't quite turned up just yet.
Hasn't yet. There's still time.
There's still time.
It's not the end of the world.
But it's minutes versus days, which they had before.
Yeah, exactly. And you look at this game now. Gamers 2 are on the blue side in this next game, which means Morsu, should he choose to take it, has the counter pick for top lane regardless of what you ban. So if he's got something up his sleeve, which Morsu normally does, he's played Wukong and Fiora, so he's probably got something as a counter pick. That puts Gamers 2 in a very tough position. They have to rely on a solid strategy. They can't rely on outplaying now.
Yes, very, very true. I'm kind of interested in what they're going to do for their pick and ban strategy, but we'll find out when we head into that second game. So we have to take a quick 3:30 break, but when we get back, Lowland Lions and Gamers 2 take to the rift for round 2. We'll be right back.